dig up a past I swore would stay buried.
You will always be a monster.
Ares! I have nothing more to hide.
The ghost of Sparta had been born.
Do you guys remember how Kratos defeated the Sisters of Fate, who quite literally controlled fate and time, and then used their powers to return to the past before he was betrayed by Zeus to regain the Blade of Olympus and fight him in God of War 2? Yeah, it was wild. But the whole game actually raises one really interesting question that a lot of people have been wondering about, myself included. If Kratos had the power to go back in time, why didn't he go back to his family or stop himself from murdering them? By the way, I'm talking about Lysandra and Calypso, Kratos' first family, not Faye and Atreus. Anyway, I have a very compelling answer to this question, as it is really one of the biggest plot holes in the whole of God of War. And trust me, by the end of this video, you'll be satisfied with what I say. I hope. Just hear me out. Rage and revenge are Kratos' fatal flaws. All gods and heroes have a tragic flaw which usually leads to their undoing or explains their lack of understanding with the rest of the world. Kratos feels he was wronged by the gods, first by Ares when he tricked him into killing his own family, then by Zeus when he didn't find the absolution he was looking for by having Sparta invade other cities as a way of self-absolvement. He can't see past his rage and anger / need for revenge against something that was entirely his fault to begin with. Like all Greek heroes, he has too much pride to accept his flaws and do something about it. Zeus dethroned Kratos and killed him because Zeus wouldn't have a god disobey him, unlike the other gods on Olympus. Kind of the way Ares was whacked when he started showing signs of rebellion. It's perspective really. Kratos feels he was wronged and will go through with his plans of revenge against the gods in order to appease himself. Self-depiction. He always blames others and paints them as bad and deserving of death when in fact he is the worst. He killed his wife, not Ares, no one else, it was his ambitions. Even at the start of God of War 1, when Kratos attempts to jump off the cliff and end it all, he doesn't blame himself, but the gods of Olympus.
The gods of Olympus have abandoned me. Now there is no hope.
He never stops and blames himself. It is always the others. As God of War, Kratos was crueler than Ares, which is why his godhood was taken in God of War 2. He never visited the souls of his loved one in Hades, he just brought suffering to everyone. He brought death and slaughter, he was wrath incarnate. I don't know if it started with the opening of Pandora's box, but somewhere along the way, Kratos changed from a loving husband and father to the cruelest monster in all of Greece. He wasn't thinking, he was just straight up slaughtering and butchering people, gods, titans, and anything that stood in his way. He was a merciless killing machine destined to destroy the world. That's pretty much what Pandora's curse is, isn't it? It was never his job to get redemption and settle for a nice life. It was his job to start the apocalypse and destroy the world. His family was never as important to him as vengeance was. Besides, in God of War 1, he proved that going back and saving his family was useless since they would only be slaughtered again to demoralize him. So to an extent, he never really cared for them. In God of War 1, he doesn't even ask the gods for forgiveness from his family, but rather for the visions to vanish, for the visions to stop.
And if I am able to do this, to kill a god, then the visions, they will end?
Complete this final task, and the past that consumes you will be forgiven. Have faith, Kratos. The gods do not forget those who come to their aid.
He only cares about himself, except that's not true. You know how the title of this video claims Kratos could have saved his family? Well, that's a lie. Kratos couldn't have saved his family even if the thought had occurred to him when the powers of the Fates were in his possession. In a nutshell, the loom of fate weaves all threads to gods, titans, and mortals that are alive. Threads of the fallen and deceased are cut from the loom. Kratos cannot go back in time to see his wife and child if their threads do not exist, if they are already cut and not intact with the loom no longer. But then, what would have happened if Kratos had gone back in time to the day he killed his family? It is likely that even if he did so, his family would be missing from the timeline, or it wouldn't be the same wife and child he knew, just soulless copies of them like the ones we see in Ragnarok. You might then ask, but the Titans were killed in the Great Titan War and God of War, and we were still able to go back in time to them and bring them to our timeline. If so, you're wrong. The Titans were never actually killed before God of War 3 or before Kratos held the power of time travel. In the cutscene, it implies that they died. We can subtly see that they didn't though. We can see that before the wave of death coming the Titans' way kills them, a blue orb surrounds each of them to save them from it. That blue orb being Kratos taking them back to his time.
We have faced far worse than this one fallen mortal. But we are the gods. We whom the mortals worship. We who rule over this land. We who will not be swept aside by this petulant fool. Brothers, put aside the petty grievances that have splintered us for so long. We will unite, we will stand together, and I will wipe out this plague. Olympus will prevail.
Zeus, your son has returned! I bring the destruction of Olympus!